Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Male Perspective. I am your host, Lana Reid, and today I'm so tickled. I'm so excited. I have Mr. Venancio Gomani all the way from Zambia to talk to me today. I think this is the furthest away I've ever had anybody speak to me. So I'm super, uber excited. So welcome to the show.
It's awesome to be here.
So thank you. Now, I want to run down your bio real quick because you're 25 years old
I'm
and
25.
you are a African engineer, an entrepreneur, an artist, a film director, a writer, and you're also the founder and CEO of Active Software Systems. Is
That is correct. Yes.
that for 25 years old? That is a lot of productive stuff that you're doing. Are you the norm in Zambia, or is that like you're an overachiever?
Well, I think it'd be a little bit of both. Firstly, I should mention that even though it appears that I do a few things in a number of different fields and industries, it certainly doesn't feel that way because it
Okay.
feels how it actually is. I'm just a little bit in everything else, not like as much into one particular thing as everyone else could be. So it doesn't entirely feel like it sometimes. But I would say that there's a number of people here within the country, not just the country, but also the continent, who do similar things as I do. Um, though not to the extent that I do, because I try to blend creativity with engineering and as well with like the business aspect as well. So a number of the people are more focused in one particular thing. So it's sort of a yes and no.
Okay. Now I'm curious because technology has given us a lot of opportunity to look into people's lives from across the globe. Um, I'm curious, what do you think of men in your age bracket in America? Do you think they're as active and involved and is doing as many wonderful things as you are? What is your impression you have of men in your age in America?
Okay, so that's a good question. I think I share a similar perspective about men, and not just men, but also about towards just people generally from the United States. That is, as most people here within the country and within the continent, and that's that. I'm pretty sure you get this a lot, but we look at so many people from there, not just the men, but also the women as well, as front runners in nearly every conceivable industry. And I know it could just be me, but there's very few people here within the country and here within the continent who you would run past the notion of being American and not get some form of like them looking at you a particular way. It's sort of like, oh, these are like really, really awesome people. These are people I really like to get to know. These are people I would like to be kind of
Okay.
way. So
Okay.
that's the sort of perspective we do have. As far as like American men, I think it would have to be a similar, from my perspective, it seems exactly that very same.
Okay. That's fair. I'm just like it's, I was really impressed with your resume, and I'm just kind of thinking of, as I do my travels, I don't see that many 25-year-old males here in America
Is that
with,
so?
yes, with all of that on their resume. But
Wow.
I'm glad that you believe. So now we have a responsibility. We have to live up to the hype. So now I have to go around and tell everybody, well, I met this guy in Zambia, so he's doing this. So all of you guys, you got to get on board and you got to step up the pace because they believe that we're awesome. So okay, so we're going to talk today about dating and all of that stuff in Zambia. So first of all, because this is 2019, and you're a younger guy, what is the difference, or what is the changes that you have been told or taught or noticed, like between modern day dating in Zambia versus maybe what your grandfather, great grandfather had to go through?
Okay. Sorry.
That's fine.
So there actually has been a significant difference. Like there's been so much, not just like growth, but also development in the whole concept of dating, relationships, and the like. And I think it's been so because Africa hasn't had the best history with gender equality, that is. So I think because of like the changes, the change in mindset, not just like of like men but also like the women as well. I think because of like this shift in dynamic, a lot of people are now looking at dating almost entirely differently as per se, like for example, my grandparents or people's grandparents or their parents even, as we do now. So one of the major things though is women are being given, or women have or play a more prominent role. They play a more, I would say, more central role, more I would call it more equal sort of role as men, as opposed to how it was in the past, where you'd have a woman not being allowed to like do certain things. And when I say a long time ago, I'm talking like maybe just a few years ago. It could be no less than over a decade ago. So there's been like significant improvement and significant development in that aspect. So not so much has changed, but I feel as though the major aspects of it have changed. And I think it keeps getting better over time, and that's something I'm genuinely thankful for as well. Coming like as an African male, that is.
So as an African male at the age of 25, do you date with the intention of just to go out and have a good time, or are you dating with the intention of finding a wife?
So the vast majority though date, the vast majority of males date with the intention of marriage, and even though that might be like at the top of our minds when we do initially start dating, it's what I've noticed. A pattern I've noticed is it's a difficult notion to keep or to maintain during the length of I would say a relationship, for example. So you'd find that you'd begin, most males would begin a relationship with someone, for example, and then there was this, oh, I really want to marry this girl, and over time you would notice that there'd be a shift, there'd be a change. It could be, it's not always as significant as many would expect, but it tends to shift slightly. It could be from I want to date her to I want to marry her to, okay, I'm not entirely sure if I want to marry her, but I would love to marry her. And then it would eventually change to, I should probably
Okay.
look for a different girlfriend. And then it's a really it's a really unfair sort of thing, but and I think I can speak on behalf of so many African guys. We haven't been in that situation, admittedly. And a ton of the times, it's a ton of the times I could attribute it to uh, how it's not very often that we get to think through, like we get to meet someone and then think through what we feel as though would be the outcome of like a relationship. Would date for, oh, yeah, she's pretty, or she's got a beautiful personality, and then let's see how this is going to work, and then over time you notice that it crumples down. But that seems to be the norm here within Africa. I'm not so sure how it could be over there, but that seems to be the norm here.
It's the same, like, oh, it's wonderful in the beginning, and then it starts to fizzle. I mean,
Exactly.
they're talking about the dynamics of dating all the time. Of it's changed, it's shift over the years, where people, I guess, they perceive they have so many options, so people are less likely to kind of commit to this one because I'm not really sure. Maybe I should try this.
Exactly.
So I guess the same thing is going on over there. Now, do you have pressure from your parents, your elders, like, okay, you're going to be 27, 28, 29 soon, you really should find a girl and settle down? Do you have that kind of pressure on you?
Um, I think culturally, that kind of pressure is more. I guess you observe that kind of pressure more from parents and from grandparents towards the female folk, towards ladies, especially like getting past the age 25, 27, then that kind of pressure would be applied to like, you get to notice parents talking to their, their daughters about things like that. But towards guys, no, I wouldn't say that's that we get that kind of pressure. I mean, my own parents don't. I mean, that showed about it, and so many people that I do know.
Okay.
So I think getting past a certain age, though, then they begin to worry, especially the grandparents, because then they're always thinking, I need a grandchild, I need a grandchild.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay. So you still have some sort of, now I have some friends from other African countries, and when I talk to them, they tell me that it's extremely taboo to marry from other tribes, even from that country. Is that the
Yeah.
same thing in Zambia? Zambia?
Okay. So in other countries, especially those countries here within Africa that have got like heavily rooted traditional or tribal like roots to them, you'd find that yes, it actually is a taboo to marry from or across different tribes. And then you'd notice that in countries where tribes were like historically two tribes have been at war for a really long time. They've had like this long-winded bicker about something irrelevant, admittedly. Although in Zambia, it's not like a while back. It used to be similar, although not to as great an extent as in some, though. But here in Zambia, it's not exactly the same. There are tribes here within the country that are considered a certain way. There are tribes that are considered not exactly the most intellectually,
I see what you're saying. I see.
inclined and the like. So marrying, for example, people from that tribe or of a particular like ethnic persuasion, then you'd get people looking at you or thinking towards you a
Mm,
certain way. Although, as far as it being a taboo, not in the past. I guess the past two generations. I think before the generation of like I would say the grandparents presently, back before that, I think it could have been like taboo, but at the moment it's not. And I think it keeps getting better in that aspect.
okay. About how many tribes are there in Zambia?
There are 70, 72, 74, no, 74 different tribes.
That's
There's
a
a ton of
lot.
them. That's a lot, yes.
That is a lot. So everybody has their designated space. Are we coexisting together, or you know, are you able to walk down the street and say, okay, this is somebody from this tribe and this is somebody from this tribe? I mean, or is it just something that somebody has to explain to you when you guys start talking?
Okay, so in the largest cities within, well, I say largest, they're not exactly like that big enough.
Mhm.
So within those cities, there's like larger clusters of like different tribes from across the entire country. So, for example, here within the city of Lusaka, for example, you would find almost every single tribe there is in Zambia within this one specific city. It's so clustered and it's so overcrowded. But
Mhm.
then when you go into, for example, the southern parts of Zambia, you'd find I guess, more of one tribe. And then there
Okay.
are some tribes that are like larger in number and have like a larger geographical area. I think the largest of which being the Lozi tribe.
Okay.
And then there are those who are so small, like so small, you wouldn't be able to tell exactly where they're from. I think, maybe if I'm not wrong, there should be one of them could be like the Ngumbo and things like that. Weird names.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that's sort of how it sort of is arranged here.
Okay. May I ask which tribe you belong to?
Yes, I am from one. I'm not so sure how to pronounce. It's pronounced Ngumbo, as in Ngumbo.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Yes, yes.
Okay, cool. So here in America on Facebook, a lot of times we see the beautiful videos of African weddings. And so I took some time to look up some of the customs, wedding customs, marriage customs in Zambia. And I want you to not only, first of all, help me pronounce some of these words, but then if you could just kind of quickly tell me what it's all about. Okay, so I'm gonna give you the long one first. Okay, so hold on.
Okay. Okay, so that's Ichilanga Mulilo.
I'm not even gonna try. I'm not even gonna try. Go ahead. Tell me what it is.
Okay. Okay, so Ichilanga Mulilo is technically a it's sort of like a pre-marriage ceremony. So what happens in one of those is the bride or the bride to be would her and her family would invite the groom or the groom to be. So they would invite the groom to be, and they would the bride would technically like cook as many different dishes from her native tribe as there are. So, and what that's supposed to, it's got like weird symbolisms. One of them being that it's supposed to show that the bride would be able to take care of weird cultures. The bride would be able to like take care of and feed the not just the husband but also like the family. And
Okay.
also is to give the groom sort of like an idea of the kinds of dishes that the wife to be is capable of preparing, or
Okay.
that she's like accustomed to or having grown up to preparing. So that's essentially what is Shilangamulilo is. It's technically just the bride showing the bride and her family showing the groom about just nothing but food. It's all about food.
Well,
Exactly. So that's the
we're taught you're supposed to feed a man, you make him happy. So I guess it's kind of the same concept.
exactly.
Okay, here's the next one, dear.
Okay, so Lobola.
Okay, go ahead.
A lighter B. So Lobola is I think there are other cultures as well besides African cultures that do have that. It's what do you call that? I think dowry.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's like bride of Christ typically.
Okay.
Yes. So it's basically just that.
Okay. So this would
Yeah.
happen before a couple got married. This is the
Yes, this would
okay.
happen. This would need to happen most of the times way before even the marriage ceremony itself. It could be slightly after like the engagement, but it's definitely way before the marriage ceremony itself.
Okay. Now, my understanding, my friends have taught me the history and culture of a lot of things in Africa. The dowry was sort of like the price somebody had to pay for the economic loss that this family was going to have. But in modern times, what do you so you would give like goats or whatever, but what do you exchange now today in today's time? What do you give?
It's the modernly it's more money,
Oh,
and
okay.
then one thing that I've also noticed as well about the lobola thing is
Hmm.
that historically it was as you said to show like for the husband to give back in like either livestock or like whatever, like giving back to the family what he feels as though he's taken away from it. But then now what it seems as though it represents more is kind of like an appreciation to
I see.
the bride's parents and the bride's family for having raised a person worthy of that guy to marry, worthy.
Hmm.
Yes. So it's sort of like more of an appreciation to the family saying, hey, thank you for having raised this person who I'm madly in love with. And here's how I feel as though I can best remunerate your efforts for that.
I like the way you put that because sometimes, especially Western women, we hear dowry and we hear, I have a price tag on me, and that kind of rubs us the wrong way. But I like the way you put that. So here's the last term that I came across.
Okay. Yes, amatebeto. Yes, yes. So
What? Say that one more time.
amatebeto.
Okay, whatever. You said that right. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So what that is, it's not exactly like a marriage or a pre-marriage thing. It's more as this one is more for couples that have been married for over a certain period of time. So what that is basically it's more as though because Matebeto itself in like Bemba means thankfulness. So what you're what you're celebrating with the like Matebeto itself is a specific number of years whenever you choose to hold that of a successful marriage. So it's basically just that. So it's basically just like a party celebrating how long your marriage.
For us, that is our anniversary parties. We celebrate.
Exactly.
Oh, this is our 5-year wedding anniversary, our 10-year wedding anniversary. Okay, awesome,
exactly.
awesome. Okay, so I want to switch topics or switch directions for a minute because I read or I watched a video of you on the internet, and you were saying or giving a talk about why Africans should get into entrepreneurship. And that's really a push that is going on within the Black community here in America. So I'm just curious to hear more. Why is it that you're saying that Africans should pursue entrepreneurship in Zambia? Or I guess in the whole country, I guess.
Yes, exactly. So the largest reason why I felt especially the need to talk about that particular topic was because when you get to observe recent economic and business trends here within the country, specifically here within the country of Zambia, you'll notice a pattern, and it'll be more there'll be more. What you notice is there are more the investors that seem to be coming here within the country and like driving change, whether like for the better or unfortunately
investors
for the worse,
from other countries,
is most of them investors from other countries, exactly, and not just from other countries, but from mostly outside of the continent itself. And then that presents a bit of a problem because unfortunately our government isn't exactly, we don't have the best history with managing the economy as it is. So whenever foreign investors from outside of the continent itself do come in and offer the government a specific amount of money, then they begin to like give out land, not just like land, but like resources as well that belong to the native people. For example, most of the land here within the country is owned by, it's traditionally owned, it's owned by chiefs and tribes themselves. But then what the problem that foreign investors coming in and land being given to like foreign investors presents is that the government and the well, at least the current regime keeps robbing tribes and like chiefs and individuals currently of things that they themselves should be using. Now, that even though that might be a little bit of a bad thing, it's sort of, I can't help but understand why it's so, that it's happening the way it's happening. And that's because for the past, I don't know, Zambia's been like an independent country for like 54 years. No, 55 years now. Or
before that, you guys were British? You were a British country?
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. So we've been independent for about that long.
Okay.
And then in that period of time, there are so many natural resources here within the country that are dormant. No one is doing anything about it. Very few people are doing anything about it. And then when someone else comes in with an idea of how to like make the most out of it, then it sort of gets a little bit political, like, hey,
I
okay,
see.
you're taking something that belongs to us, and then you're making something better out of it. And the other person does have like legal claim and like an actual claim to like towards it. So it's like a good and bad situation. So how I feel as though that could be solved personally would be if more people from here within the country and from here within the continent itself began realizing the potential that they themselves have and that the environment has, and begin to like maximize as much of it as they possibly can. That way it works, not just it's not just one-sided from like a foreign investor perspective, or like a local investor. So it's balanced between the two, and it's not like there's not like all of this tension between. So that's why I feel the need to like or felt the need to make that video, and felt the need to like talk about that, not just like in that video, but also like in my day-to-day lives, in my blogs, and I think throughout most of like my entire life, that's what I love to talk about, and that's what I like. That's largely why I even got into like entrepreneurship as I am at the moment. And
Mhm.
I keep like trying to advise as many people and like talk to inspire as many people and motivate as many people as I possibly can to get into things like that. So that way, we benefit the same way that other people, foreign investors, tend to benefit, whether at the same or similar level. I feel it's important for a number of people to realize that more.
Okay.
Um, and just a final point that I would like to mention on that is about 2 months ago, it could have been like at the beginning of July. I got the chance to go to travel to like north of Zambia, and it it had like that's home to like I think the largest water body here within the country, Lake Bangweolo. It's beautiful. It's amazing. I've honestly never seen a body of water that massive before.
Okay.
And then while I was moving around there, it's heavily traditional. It's heavily cultural. Very little. I guess it's very. It's not as industrialized as most of the parts of the country. But then what I noticed as well, what I noticed while I was there was that the people who are staying there keep trying to find ways of industrializing their lives. Because you'd see that in how that building the houses, and how they're building their stores, and how they're running their businesses, and how they're running their daily lives. You can see heavy you'd notice like heavy aspects of like cultural Zambian, cultural like Africa within that. But then you'd also notice that there are like aspects of like industrialization in that. So people are trying to like get to that point where they're making the most of the natural resources that they have. And it's mostly just like an African, I like to term it that now we're doing as much as we can do, even though that's not entirely true, and we should do more because we can do more.
Okay.
And that's something that I keep trying to like get to, and trying to like get as many people to get to as possible.
Okay. Now I want to make sure we're going to wrap it up here, but I want to make sure because we've been talking, mentioning, tribes and, 70 tribes in Zambia or whatever. And a lot of times, uh, especially people in America, we have stereotypes, we have mentalities, just stories and
Mhm.
pictures in our mind. But
Yeah.
Zambia is a very, is it a modern country? Has it been modernized? Where are you guys sitting at in industrialization?
So I think it'd be a stretch for me to say we're approaching third world.
Hmm.
I think it'd be a little bit of a stretch. Although there are parts of like here, the best example I can give is here within the city of Lusaka itself, the capital. There are so many parts of like the city itself that have that can be compared to third world countries and third world cities and third world economies. Although the vast majority of like the towns and like the cities and the villages here within the country are they're more third world, if I'm being entirely honest. So I think
Hmm.
I think on average, I would call it developing as opposed to like,
Okay.
develop, because there's too few aspects, too few parts of like the economy itself that can be considered that is.
Mm-hmm. Well, you can't be that third world. You have internet. I'm talking to you right now from across the globe, so you can't be that far off.
Very,
All righty.
well, not too far back.
All righty. So, as I mentioned, you are a film director and writer. You have a whole bunch of books out. So I want to, before we get out of here, I want you to let people know how they can connect with you to read your books. And, maybe somebody wants you to come to America and design some software or something. How do they reach out to you?
Okay. So I have a website. It's just www.venanciogomani.com. I think that's the easiest way to reach me, because it has like a direct contact me portal that comes directly to like my phone.
Okay.
So I think that would be the best way. And then most of everything that I do, I keep trying to like post it on that very same website. The books are there, and I think I'm aiming for the end of next month to have some of the music I've been working on, and a very short film project. At least by about the end of next month. So I think my website would be the best possible way that people would be able to like reach me and get like a ton of stuff that I do.
Okay, awesome. So we're going to wrap it up now. I do want to say this now. When you decide you find that one lady, that special lady that you are going to marry, I want an invitation. And yes, I'll fly all the way over there. So I want an invitation. Okay.
Definitely.
You got to tell me the traditions and tell me what I can wear, what I can't wear, because I'm clueless. I can't even say the words, but I want to come. I think, so that's awesome.
If possible, I will personally design your clothing for you, your traditional clothing for you.
Awesome. Thank you, love. I appreciate you hanging out with me. I wish you continued success in what you're doing. And hopefully one day I'll get the pleasure of actually running into you face to face.
All right. Thank you so much. This was really fun. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
All righty. You have a good one. Thank you for hanging out. This is the end of this episode of The Male Perspective. I am your host, Lana Reid, and I will see you all next time.